if you actually understand how the markets move, how they manipulate it, how massive investors like big banks, big cryptocurrency exchanges that are putting millions and billions of dollars in buys and sell positions, and how they move the markets and purposely stop people out, you can actually go and make a lot of money off any bear, bull, or flat market. There's a big saying that goes around that says, all the millionaires are made in the bear markets. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can average $100 a day in any cryptocurrency that you want, despite the recent crash and the recent bear market, and how I've been catching over 1 to 3 RR trades, shorting cryptocurrencies and specifically Bitcoin 90% of the time. I honestly prefer trading in a bear market than a bull market, and in today's video I'm going to show you all my tips, secrets and tricks how you can use the current downfall of Bitcoin, Ethereum and any other cryptocurrency that is currently diving to benefit and make a lot of money off of that. As you can see over here, I'm going to show you a short scalping strategy that you can go and use. Even in a bear market, you can still catch some solid buys. Obviously, a lot of people have lost a lot of money in the recent Terra Luna crash. Also, Bitcoin, which dove under $20,000 as of 18th of June, slightly starting to recover a little bit. But in today's video, I'm going to show you a strategy that you can go and use to make money in any market that you want to, but specifically in today's video, cryptocurrency markets, using the strategy where I find about a 90% win rate. Let's get straight into it. What's going on, awesome people of YouTube? Jay here, your no BS South African online entrepreneur, coach and trader from South Africa that documents my journey on my YouTube channel on various ways that I used to make money online. In today's video, we're specifically going to be focusing on cryptocurrencies, since there's quite a bit of a hype around it at the moment with the recent crash and how it's busy diving. I do honestly think Bitcoin will recover at some point eventually. Keep in mind, regardless of that Bitcoin has come all the way to $20,000, it is still up 500% over the last 5 years, which still no other investment opportunity at the banks or wherever you look will offer that type of return. So you've got to look at it in the long run. With the halving coming up next year, I definitely think a bull run is on the cards over here. But regardless, if you actually understand how the markets move, how they manipulate it, how massive investors like big banks, big cryptocurrency exchanges that are putting millions and billions of dollars in buys and sell positions, and how they move the markets and purposely stop people out, you can actually go and make a lot of money off any bear, bull or flat market, as long as you understand how price moves. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you how price is moved in the markets, how we can trade along the footsteps of the banks in cryptocurrency markets and make a boatload of money off of that. So the first thing I've come over to over here, if you know a little bit about trading, is tradingview.com. I'll just take you to the homepage. This is the first website that I want you to go and visit. Throughout the video, I'm going to show you an exchange where you can actually go and trade Bitcoin using the strategy that I'm going to show you to average $100 a day on a small account. Tradingview.com is my #1 recommended place when it comes to analyzing markets. It's completely free. You can click on the products tab over here, click on charts, and on the top over here, there is the symbol of the cryptocurrency or the pair that you're busy on. You can click on this, come over to cryptocurrency, and you can go and search up any cryptocurrency pair over here. So currently I'm on BTC USD. I actually left a couple of my trades over the period of June, and you'll see over here, most of the time I've just been shorting Bitcoin, and it's been going straight to take profit over here. Took quite a nice long position on the 19th of June, but in today's video, I want to show you how you can go and find these setups and place these trades yourself. So the first thing we need to do is, in order to find these types of trades, is understand how price moves. So firstly, I'm just going to go and remove and empty my chart completely over here. I'm also just going to go and disable all my indicators, and I usually trade off the naked chart. I only use one indicator for my confirmation entry, and the first thing I will go and do is just go and have a look at the overall institutional structure of the markets. As you can see over here, right now we're very bearish, as we all know, which is good, which means most of the time we want to look for short positions. So you can see over here, we had a break of the structure. which obviously grabbed all of this liquidity back from the 12th of June in 2021, which now I expect price eventually to come maybe up to about $36,000 to a supply zone here, to continue dropping or to break the supply zone, continue from demand zones to continue higher. So that's one of two schematics we can see from Bitcoin in the next couple of months or years. So now that we've got an overall idea of structure, I usually come over to the 15 and the 30-minute chart, and I will go and look for any type of unmitigated supply and demand zones. So before we just go and look for that, you need to understand what that concept means. A supply and demand zone is, in a nutshell, a last down move before an up move that broke structure that hasn't been mitigated, which means price hasn't come back to that demand zone to fulfill price. You'll see over here, we had quite a big supply zone over here. I usually use just the rectangle. If I highlight the supply zone, which was the last up move over here that broke this liquidity structure over here. So you'll see, I'll just put here for you liquidity. So this was the last up move that broke structure, which means big financial institutions, currency exchanges, crypto companies sold very hard at this area in the market. Whether they sold off millions of dollars, there was a lot of selling off happening over here. Now, what price has to eventually do is it has to come back to the supply zone and fulfill it to continue its movement downward. So as you can see over here, price came back about a day later, the next day, tapped into the supply zone and continued its big move down. So over here, you could have looked for some excellent short positions. Same thing with demand zones. If you have a look here, we had I would say that's unmitigated, an unmitigated demand zone, which was the last down move that broke structure over here. You can see it broke that structure, forming a higher high, which means big banks, financial institutions, or large crypto exchanges bought millions of dollars of positions in this area in the market, which means price eventually has to tap into this area to fulfill price to continue its movement upward. So over here, we could have looked for some good long positions. So let's come over to the live market and I'll actually give you some pointers on where you could go and look for sells and buys. So over here, you can see there's one fat supply zone over here, which was the last up move that broke the structure break over here. So in this area, we can start looking for short positions. Regarding long positions, you'll see over here on the 30 minutes, there is a big demand zone over here, which was the last down move before an up move that broke structure over here, which we could expect price to, let me just get the pen tool, to maybe come and tap into this demand zone, to go long, to tap into the supply zone, to even continue its bigger move downwards. So this could be some kind of price play out that I'm expecting from Bitcoin. But before we just go and trade these areas over here, you're not just going to go and place a sell limit or a buy limit. I've got a second tool that I use called the supply and demand zone multi-time frame, which is an indicator that pops up supply and demand zones live in real time, which I then use as my confirmation for my entry. So you'll see over here, while this is busy loading, you want to come over to the indicators tab, just go and search supply and demand. It will be the supply and demand multi-time frame free by Kapoor Chandra. So either go and star that and save it to your favorites. And this, in a nutshell, is how it works. I'm going to quickly disable it and go and replay the charts. Let's go and replay from, let's go over here, any random point. So what we're going to go and do is we are going to go and mark out demand zones that haven't been mitigated, which we can see one over here. This was the last down move. I'm going to include this wick over here because this wick also includes as a down move on a smaller time frame. You'll see if I come over to the 4-minute chart, you can see that is a black candle. But on the 30-minute chart, I'm going to include this entire zone as a demand zone, which we can then start looking for long positions. There is a there is another demand zone over here. Remember, this wick counts as a demand zone because on a smaller time frame, this is the last down move before a big up move that broke structure. So from these two areas, we can go and look for buy positions. Regarding sell positions, we have a supply zone over here that is unmitigated. What I mean is, when I say the supply zone is unmitigated, meaning price is not tapped into it yet. So you'll see over here, this was the last up move before a down move that broke the structure over here, and price has never come back in to fulfill it. You'll see over here, a good example of a mitigated demand zone or supply zone is this one over here. This was a supply zone. The market tapped into it and went straight through it, and that's why it had no power. The market just came back down straight through it. So it's super important to filter out the supply and demand zones that haven't been mitigated. So over here, we can start looking for sells. Then what I will go and do is I will come over to 5-minute time frame, understanding my entire structure. We're very bearish on a high time frame. On a 15 to 30 minute time frame, I have my areas of interest, and the 5-minute time frame is where I place my entries. Now, I won't trade this market until the market reaches one of my areas of interest. So I won't trade Bitcoin at all right now. We'll wait for price to play out. So it's super important that you set up a system like I've got, because it stops you from emotional trading, forcing trades, and revengeance trading over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable my multi-time frame demand zone. And you'll see over here, these blue blocks pop up when the market is bullish. So this blue demand zone popped up, the market skyrockets. You'll see over here, the supply zone popped up over here, and it just completely dived downwards. So that is what I use for my entry confirmation. So let's go and play this market and see if we tap into one of our areas of interest. You'll see over here, this market went straight through the supply zone and we had no confirmation entry, which is perfectly fine. No trade, there was no confirmation for our entry. That's why it's so important to have a confirmation for your entry instead of just trading supply and demand zones. Because if I took this trade over here, take a look at this, we would have gone straight into stop loss pretty much immediately. That's why it's super important to have a confirmation entry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the 30-minute time frame, and we'll just go and look for supply zones that haven't been mitigated higher up. So over here, you'll see, if you look carefully, this supply zone, which is this blue candle, it hasn't been mitigated. Very close. So we can go and highlight this candle over here, and this can act as an unmitigated supply zone. And as you can see, we are busy, I think, tapping into price over here. Yes, we are. So I'm going to delete the supply zone, come back to the 5-minute time frame. Let's see if we get a confirmation for our entry. Over here, you will see an orange block has popped up, which is our confirmation for our entry in our supply zone. One thing I do want to mention with this supply and demand zone indicator on the live market, it is slightly delayed. So most likely, once the market's gone down a bit to probably about over here, it will pop up on live market. So when you replay the market, they pop up instantly, but on the live market, they are a bit delayed, but it doesn't matter. You still take your entry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my entry over here, and I'm going to take a 1 to 2 risk to reward trade. So you'll see over here, 1 to 2. My stop loss at 31397, entry at 31035, TP at 30334, and we're also going to have a TP1 at halfway, which is 1 to 1 risk to reward, where we are going to open 2 positions. Once we hit into BE and partials, which is TP1, we close position 1, taking profits, and we set our second position that's running to TP2, the stop loss to break even, so it's a risk-free trade. Using this risk management strategy, I've honestly gone from a 70% to a 90% win rate. So let's go and have a look and see how this trade plays out. Remember, I haven't seen this market. I went back to a random time frame. Let's have a look. Okay, so now we've tapped into BE plus partials. That means we bring our stop loss to break even. We've already closed partial profits. So even if the market goes back to stop loss, we've already made, what was this about? 600 pips on position 1. Let's see if we tap into TP2. Okay, that was a nice trade. That actually went straight to TP2. And this is exactly all I do. Mark out my supply and demand zones, understanding structure, because at the moment you want to look for more sells than buys, but you can still look for buys in a bearish market. because the market will never just dive straight downwards. It goes up and downs in forms of highs and lows. So over here, this was a perfect opportunity for a buy. So let's come over to, I'm just going to clear this demand and supply zone. I'm just going to come over to back to the 30-minute chart, and we can leave this trade over here and go and add this as a +1 win. And now we can go and remove the supply zone as it's mitigated, no longer counts. Let's come over to our chart and have a look for more supply and demand zones. So over here we can see, I definitely see a demand zone. Okay, you'll see if you look very carefully, this demand zone over here has just been mitigated. You'll see the market traded out of it, breaking structure, tapped into it over here with a slight little wick, continuing its movement upwards, which was a good opportunity for a long position. So that is not a demand zone I will look at. We've got another demand zone over here. All of these demand zones have been mitigated. Same with this one over here. Market tapped into it, continuing its movement upward. So these demand zones I won't look at. I'll keep this one in mind and the one we've got further down. We can also go and mark out supply zones, new supply zones that have formed. So we definitely have one over here. This entire thing consists of a supply zone because on a higher time frame, this is one blue candle, and you'll see the market has traded out of it, never tapped into it to fulfill price to continue downwards. So we can look at sells from here, and we can start looking at buys from here. So I'm going to continue. Let's run the market until we get to one of our areas of interest. Okay, so we've now tapped into our demand zone of interest. I'm going to enable my supply and demand zone indicator for my entry confirmation, come back to 5 minutes. Okay, so here you can see we have a blue block that has popped up in our demand zone for our confirmation entry. So I'm going to go and take the trade. I'm going to go and take a 1 to 2 risk to reward over here with TP at 29554, entry at 29010, and stop loss at 28738 with BE and partials halfway, which means we're going to close one position and set our second position to break even. So let's run this trade and see how it goes. Okay, we haven't hit TP1. Okay, so we've hit TP1, profitable trade. We can now go and close position 1, set stop loss to break even. So it's a risk-free trade over here. So let's let this run and see where we get to. Okay, so over here, you'll see we're tapped into stop loss. We would have hit break even. So this would have been a TP1 hit trade with stop loss on the second position, which is still a beautiful trade. I honestly will take this any day. Much better than a loss, and what could have been a potential loss ended up being a profitable trade, and that's okay. So we can document this over here. Go and type plus 0.5 profits. A plus 0.5 is a TP1 trade. The +1 trade over here is a TP1 and 2. So then we continue. We can go and delete our demand zone. That's now been mitigated. Turn off our indicator. We can come back to 30-minute charts and continue looking for supply and demand zones. So I'm going to come over to this supply zone here, which is the last up move that broke the structure over here. So this is a good area where we can go and look for sells. And regarding a demand zone for a buy, we have a demand zone over here. Remember, wicks can count because on a smaller time frame, this will be the last down move before an up move. And we have another big demand zone over here that we can look for buys. And from these areas over here, we want to look for sells. There's another supply zone over here. So from any of these areas, we can look for sells. And again, you might get to a point where you draw out so many supply and demand zones. How do you know which one they're going to react off of? That is where you use your indicator, the supply and demand zone multi-time frame, for your entry confirmation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let price play out. Let's see if we get to one of our areas of interest. Okay, so we've tapped into a supply zone, went straight through it, so we can delete that. You would see we've got no entry confirmation. Let me just come back a little bit as I went too quickly, and let's see if we get our entry confirmation in our next supply zone over here. An orange block just popped up, which is our entry confirmation. So I'm going to take the trade over here stop loss at where it is, and we're going to take a 1 to 2 risk to reward, just like that, with TP1 at halfway at 1 to 1 risk to reward, where we take partials and set stop loss to break even, the usual. So I'm going to let this run. Let's see where we get to. Okay, we just missed TP1. Okay, so we went straight to TP1, obviously closed position 1, set stop loss break even, and we dove straight into TP2. So this again was another good trade. We can go and add this over here as a +1 and document this over here. So what I want you to do is, when trying this and when trading, I'm going to recommend a good exchange or broker that you can go and trade Bitcoin and actually get paid in Bitcoin as well, just in a bit. But I want you to go and test this strategy 200 times on any cryptocurrency market. Go and open up a chart, go and back test 200 trades. When you place a trade like I do over here, I leave it on the chart, put +1 or +0.5 or -1 for a stop loss hit, and you go and document all of your trades that you test. And that is the best way to develop a system for yourself, and how the millionaires make big money in bear markets. So what I recommend is I use Binance.com to go and trade cryptocurrencies. Remember, all your analysis happens on tradingview.com, but you can go and use Binance to just go and execute your trades. You set your stop loss, your break even, and your TP1 and 2 exactly as you would on the Binance app on tradingview.com over here. I use MetaTrader 5, but obviously my broker doesn't pay in crypto. I use Veracity Markets that pay in USD. And obviously the whole point of this video is to earn in Bitcoin. So then what you can do is, once you've made money on Binance, I transfer all of my Bitcoin to luno.com, where I can then withdraw to my South African bank account over here. So what I'm going to do is to help you out more with trading strategies like this. You're welcome to follow me on Instagram. I'll leave my handle down below if you want to ask me any questions. I'm also going to leave my entire trading playlist over here. All of this information that I've learned from thousands of dollars of courses. I'm not here to sell you any $2,000 course. In fact, I don't sell any trading course at all. So you can go and click on this playlist over here. You will find tons of information on supply and demand zones, Wyckoff structure, institutional structure. I remember way back in the beginning, I've still got those videos when I started trading. I used retail concepts like swing trading, support, resistance, that kind of stuff, major key levels. So you can go and check out all of that as well. And you can actually go and have a look at my whole trading journey and how my system has changed over the months and years. So what I recommend is go and click on this playlist over here, and I'll see you over there.